Hello everyone and welcome to Instant Biology by Dr. Neelab. The topic that we are going to discuss today is autoimmunity. Now I have already uploaded a video in Hindi on autoimmunity. If you want to study through that video, you can go and switch over to the Hindi version. Now this video would be in English. I would be discussing autoimmunity as I have said already. So let us start from the first point. What is autoimmunity? Let us understand this, that under normal conditions of your body, under normal conditions what happens is your body is able to distinguish between your cells, your tissues, your organs from the outside environment or from the cells that are present in the outside environment. For instance, your body can easily distinguish between a bacterial cell and your own cells. This is the normal condition, and this phenomena or this capacity of your body for distinguishing or discriminating between your cells and the foreign cells is called as immune tolerance. Why have we given this kind of a term to this capacity? Because immune tolerance means your body or your immune system is tolerant towards your own body cells. However, it mounts an immune response against any foreign antigen or any foreign cells that your body gets exposed to. Okay, so this was the first point written on the first slide. Now coming to the next point, when somehow your body loses this efficiency of discriminating between yourself and the foreign antigens or foreign cells, then what happens is the immunocompetent cells of your body. What does immunocompetent cell means? The cells that have the capacity, the cells that are competent to cause some kind of destruction in your own body, those cells or those antibodies, what will they do? They will start inflicting damage on your own cells. Why? Because they have lost the ability, lost the capacity to distinguish between yourself and the foreign cell. Right? So this happens in case of autoimmunity. Again, what happens in case of autoimmunity? Your body loses the efficiency to discriminate between self and non-self. Because of that, it leads to the activation of the immunological competent cells or autoantibodies. So what comes under immunological competent cells? You should know that we are talking about self-reactive T cells actually over here, that again are activated in case of autoimmunity and they inflict some kind of damage on your own body. So this was the whole concept of autoimmunity. But let me just come to this word back again, that autoimmunity. Now this word actually, if you break it down, auto means self, immunity means protection. So this word actually tells us a different meaning. It gives us a picture that autoimmunity refers to the capacity to protect one's own self, but that is not the case. Actually over here, autoimmunity is referring to causing injury to oneself, okay, causing injury to one's own body. This is actually the meaning of autoimmunity. So since this word is quite confusing, so most of the times this word comes under debate, that it is not the correct word to use for this kind of activity, but for your purposes we should be knowing at least this word, because this topic is extremely important and it is asked in different life science examinations. So we have completed the first slide. Now let us move on to the second slide. Now in the first point you can see that what happens in case of autoimmunity, it actually leads to the destruction of self proteins, organs, autoantibodies, self-reacting, it leads to the destruction of self protein, cells and organs. Why am I saying that? Because your body is composed of cells, tissues and organs, right? When your autoantibodies or when your self-reacting antigens, they are activated, what will happen? They will start inflicting damage upon your organs, upon your cells, upon your tissues. This will come as a result of the autoimmunity. Now a very important example I have given over here. What is an example of creation of autoantibodies, or in which disease can you see the creation or production of autoantibodies? So one very good example is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So in case of Hashimoto's thyroiditis, what happens is the antibodies that can inflict damage upon your own body they start getting produced. Whereas if I talk about rheumatoid arthritis, what happens is the self-reactive T cells start getting produced. I would be talking more about those in the upcoming slides. Now another question that comes into being is that what actually is responsible for this kind of effect, or how does this effect actually happen? Why does autoimmunity happen? So there are multiple reasons that can be accounted for behind this autoimmunity. For example, genetic factors, viral factors, hormonal factors, psychoneural or immunological factors. But most important factors among these is the genetic and environmental factors, or genetic and environmental triggers. Now because of these genetic and environmental triggers, ultimately again what will happen, there would be production of self antibodies or self-reacting T cells. Okay, now autoimmune diseases can be classified into two ways. The first way is classifying it on the basis of the destruction that is caused. Now suppose the effect of this autoimmunity happens at a organ level only, that means it is confined to a particular organ, then it will be called as autoimmune disease, that would be organ specific. Whereas if it causes a wide or a collateral damage, let us consider that word, so then it will be called as a systemic disease, systemic autoimmune disease. Okay, so these are the two factors that you should be, this is one way, actually one way to classify the autoimmune disease on the basis of the destruction that is being caused. Now if I come to the second way or second method of classifying it, it is dependent upon the type of the cells that are being activated or that are being produced. So autoimmune, in case of autoimmune disease, either the T cells, self-reactive T cells might be produced, or antibodies might get produced. Now both of these would be self-reacting, remember. Okay, now what is the most important reason why does this autoimmune disease should occur, or why does this autoimmune disease occurs? Important thing is that autoimmune diseases have a polygenic type of inheritance. Now you would be knowing, if you have studied a little bit of genetics, then you would be knowing what is polygenic inheritance. In case of polygenic inheritance, multiple genes that are present in one group are responsible for giving their effect or contributing to a particular phenotype. For example, characters such as human hair color or human skin color, these are polygenic. Okay, so there are multiple genes that are giving their respective contributions into this phenotype. Okay, so one of the most prominent genes that are contributing their phenotype in case of this autoimmunity is major histocompatibility complex, or MHC cells. Okay, now these MHC cells are contributing majorly, but I am not saying that no other genes are contributing towards the autoimmunity. MHC genes are major contributors, but apart from these MHC genes, there are some other contributors also. For example, the other contributors would be mainly responsible for selection of self-reacting lymphocytes. Now let us understand this, that in general what happens is the lymphocytes, let us consider lymphocytes as WBC for now, any kind of WBC. So essentially what happens is you would not want any self-reacting lymphocyte, that means any such lymphocyte that is inflicting damage or that can inflict damage in future upon your own body. You would not want any such lymphocyte to be present in your circulation. That is why these lymphocytes that are self-reactive or that can inflict some kind of a damage, they are removed from your circulation. That is called as negative selection. But when autoimmunity is happening, this kind of negative selection is not taking place, and in contrast to this, what happens is they are selected, these kind of cells are selected, that means they would not be removed and they would be present in your circulation. Now this again would lead to autoimmunity, right? So this was the last point of this slide. Let us move on to the next slide. Now an important thing over here is that viral and bacterial infections can also contribute in aggravating the situation, or can increase the the potential or increase the level of autoimmune diseases. So how do they do that? Because infections such as bacterial or viral infections, what will they do? They will stimulate the production of the self antigens on the surface of your cells. Okay, your cells or your tissues or your organs, what will they do? They will start projecting more amount of self antigens on their surface. Now you already know that there are lymphocytes that are present in your circulation that are looking forward to interact with the self antigens. Now when this kind of activity will happen, more amount of destruction will be caused, and the viral and bacterial infection thus would be aggravating the entire effect, right? One more way in which the bacterial and viral infection would cause an increase in the level of the disease would be because they will cause a cross reactivity between the microbial antigen. Now you would be knowing what is microbial antigen, the antigen that is present on the surface of the pathogen or microbe, and self antigen. There are antigens present on your self, those would be called as self antigens. So self antigens and microbial antigens, there is a cross reactivity. These bacteria or virus will cause a cross reactivity between the between the pathogenic and the normal or the self antigen. So this would be caused. Now coming to the most important part of this kind of this topic, the most important point is the examples of this. For example, if I talk about the first example, this is autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Now what is autoimmune hemolytic anemia? Hemolysis. Now you would understand what does hemolysis mean. It means the bursting or lysis of the RBCs. So this happens in case of this autoimmunity because there is an antigen on the surface of the RBC that is called as Rh antigen. You would be knowing because that also contributes to the blood group. We at times refer to O positive or B positive. That positive sign actually refers to the presence of rhesus antigen or not. Okay, so in case of autoimmune hemolytic anemia, what will happen? The presence of Rh, and there would be, if the Rh antigen is present, then if the Rh antigen is there, what will happen? Your immune system will mount an immune response against that Rh antigen, and there would be a collateral damage. That means the RBCs would also burst off. This is called as autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Let us talk about the Graves' disease. It has an abnormal name, isn't it? Graves' disease. Now that is because of the doctor who actually found out or reported this disease first of all. That was Dr. Grave. So in this particular disease, what happens is the thyroid gland becomes hyperactive. It starts producing more amount of thyroid hormone because the thyroid stimulating hormone receptor, TSHR, thyroid stimulating hormone receptor, is targeted in this kind of autoimmunity. That means the thyroid stimulating hormone receptor present on the thyroid cells, it basically is under attack from the self-reactive T cells or self-reactive antibodies. Now let us talk about the third one. The third one is multiple sclerosis. In case of multiple sclerosis, what happens is, you might be knowing that there are neurons, and the neurons have long axons, right? And these axons are basically covered by a myelin sheath. Myelin sheath's function is to just function as an insulator and avoid the loss of the signal that is flowing through the axon. Okay, but the myelin sheath has a myelin basic protein. Now this acts as an attractant for the self-reactive antigens, and self-reactive antigens attack on this, thus the myelin sheath gets destroyed. Okay, this is called as multiple sclerosis. Coming to the next one, myasthenia gravis. In case of myasthenia gravis, what happens is that your let us say that your nervous system is connected to your skeletal muscles, because your nerves basically bring the signal from the brain to your muscles, and then your muscles act accordingly. But now this junction has acetylcholine receptors that are basically functioning to just form a bridge or just form a link between these two systems. But in this case, acetylcholine receptor acts as an attractant for acts as an allergen, or acts as an antigen for the self-reactive cells, and when this gets destroyed, what happens is there is no longer a good connectivity between the skeletal cells and the nervous cells, and there is a lot of problems in voluntary actions that can be seen in patients having myasthenia gravis. Now let us talk about rheumatoid arthritis. In case of rheumatoid arthritis, you might be knowing that there are some joints in your body, for example this knee. So in this joint, what happens is the synovial fluid is present. This synovial fluid is responsible for easy movement or smooth movement of the two bones over each other. Now when this synovial fluid actually has an antigen that is not very well known about, and this your immune system or your self-reactive cells, they start acting against this synovial joint antigen, and again this results in rheumatoid arthritis. So this was rheumatoid arthritis. Let us talk about the systemic lupus erythematosus. What happens is, in this case, DNA, histones and SNPs are targeted and they function as an antigen against which your body acts. Next, type 1 diabetes mellitus. Now you would be knowing about this. This is very easy. Type 1 diabetes mellitus, in this what happens is the insulin stops getting produced. You would be knowing that pancreas, beta cells of pancreas are responsible for the production of insulin. But in this case, these beta cells are lost because the antigens, because it is functioning, this pancreatic beta cell antigen that is functioning as a antigen, and your immune system mounts an immune response against this. So this was type 1 diabetes mellitus. In this, no insulin or very little amount of insulin is produced. Now what is the trick? How can we remember this entire thing? So first of all, first one is autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Now from hemolysis you can easily remember that it has something to do with RBC, and from RBC you can easily remember that Rh antigen is present on RBC, and because of that the immune response is being done or performed on the RBC, which leads to the lysis of RBC. So that does not involve any trick. You can easily remember by logic only. Now coming to rheumatoid arthritis, you would be knowing that arthritis happens inside joint have synovial fluid, and synovial antigen is responsible for mounting this kind of immune response. Let us talk about the multiple sclerosis. Now for multiple sclerosis we can easily remember it. M for multiple sclerosis and M for myelin sheath, you can easily remember by this. Now systemic lupus erythematosus, it has a lot of basic antigens like DNA, histones, SNPs, you can easily remember that. Type 1 diabetes mellitus, also everyone knows that diabetes is related to pancreas, so pancreatic beta cell antigen, this also can be remembered. What I found very difficult to remember was Graves' disease and this myasthenia gravis. So how did I remember it? So what have I done is I have made a trick for you. So Graves' disease means it starts from GR and DI. So I have made an analogy. So GR for group, DI for discussion. So group discussion topic is thyroid stimulating hormone receptor. Okay, so how can we remember this? Group GR for grave, DI for disease. Group discussions topic is thyroid stimulating hormone receptor, and the next one is myasthenia gravis. How to remember that? MY stands for myasthenia, GR stands for gravis. GR means group discussion. My group discussion, I aced it. ACE means acetylcholine receptor. So this is how you can remember. I have made a trick for you, so you can remember all the examples of this autoimmunity. So this was very important topic. I believe you would have loved the video. If you have liked the video, just press the like button, subscribe to my channel, and also share with your friends. Thank you so much. Have a good day.